What do you call yourself if you live abroad? This topic always sparks a lot of conversation and some debate. Hi, I'm Naina. I'm the founder and CEO of the Expat Woman, an organization that empowers, connects, and inspires women living abroad to survive and thrive and lead very successful lives. So, this is a topic about what you call yourself when you're living abroad that comes up very often because of the name, the expat woman. So, why did I choose this name? So, when I founded the expat woman in 2013, I was thinking about this organization for a while. I wanted to launch it for several years, and I was brainstorming with other folks, with myself, on what name to call it. At that time, my focus was just on women who had moved to the US because I was living in San Francisco, I was living in New York before that, and the whole idea of the organization came from the pains, the challenges that I faced as someone who had moved to this country. And I realized it wasn't just women who had moved like me from India, but women who had moved from any country in the world to the US. And I knew it also was the same for people who might move to another country. It wasn't just the US that was hard to navigate. When you've lived in one country, you're used to one country, any country that you move to, there will be challenges. Some might be easier to navigate, some might be harder because they're very different from your culture. Now, I grew up speaking English in India. I will link to a video I did some time ago on YouTube about the questions people ask me when they find out I'm from India. And one of them is, how come you speak such good English? So I'm not going to spend time on that in this video, but I just wanted to give you a little context. I didn't want to use the word immigrant because when I lived in India and I traveled to Southeast Asia, to Hong Kong, to Singapore, to Thailand, I noticed something that people who were from the Western countries, especially Caucasians from Western countries, were referred to as expats. And I remember that at these restaurants or bars after work, all the white expats would get together and, have happy hours. Maybe there might have been a couple of non-Caucasian folks, but they were referred to as expats. I also worked for a company where I noticed a difference between how the Caucasian expats were treated and folks who were local and not Caucasian. So there was definitely some kind of discrimination happening. And then I came to the US, and then there was all this discussion about immigrants and how immigrants are taking people's jobs. Again, I don't want this to be a political discussion. If you know me, I try and stay away from anything that can cause division. And I realize my audience is so global that politics of any specific country is not part of my conversation. Immigrant had a negative connotation, especially since people of color were not normally referred to as expats. You rarely hear of a white person being called an immigrant. So I decided I like the I like the sound of expat. It just sounds cool. And I wanted to give it a full name, so I thought the expat woman, because I was the expat woman at that point because I came here to study and then I stayed here for love, which will be another video in itself on how I landed up in the US as an expat or an accidental expat. All right, so people often say, I'm not an immigrant, I'm an expat. Why are you calling it the expat woman? Today, I'm not even an expat, I'm actually a naturalized citizen of the US. But 22 years later, and I still feel very often like I am new to this country. And when I go back to India, sometimes I feel like I'm new to India too, so I'm really straddling two worlds. So you can be naturalized. Maybe you've lived in multiple countries and you're still trying to find home, you're still trying to find belonging. When you become a citizen of a country you move to, do you lose your expat status? I mean, it's also confusing and complicated. And another thing, I wasn't even aware of the word expat before I traveled to Southeast Asia because there were very few people other than Indian that lived in India when I was growing up. We would have people visit and we'd usually refer to them as foreigners. Or even if they were living in India, we'd say, oh, so and so, he's a foreigner. Sometimes we refer to them as in Hindi as Goras or Goris, and that's not derogatory. Gora's a white man and Gori's a white woman. So we sometimes they say, hey, see that Gora, or do you know the Gora, or do you know the Gori? Maybe now it's not no longer politically correct, but when we were growing up, it was considered fine. But anyway, mostly we refer to people as foreigners. So today I decided to ask ChatGPT for the different definitions, because in the expat women community, I have people who call themselves expats, immigrants, global citizens, digital nomads, that's repats. So I thought, let's ask ChatGPT for the definitions instead of me going to Wikipedia and looking for each of them or going to a dictionary. And then you can let me know in the comments what you think of yourself as. Again, I think you're free to call yourself whatever you want to. I mean, as I said, I'm no longer an expat, but I still say, hi, I'm the expat woman. I still think of myself as an expat. So you can give yourself whatever name you want to. I think it's totally fine. And it's not because you think one name's better than another. Freedom of speech. Anyway, so let me pull up ChatGPT and tell you what their definitions were. So expat. Expat is short for expatriate. The term is often used to describe someone living in a foreign country, usually for work, retirement, or a lifestyle change. But here's the thing. So this is what ChatGPT said me. Expat is often associated with privilege and certain nationalities, particularly Westerners. It's seen as temporary, even though many expats settle abroad for decades. What's your take? Does this term fit you? Then the next one is immigrant, a term for someone who moves to another country intending to stay long term or permanently. This word often emphasizes integration and building life in a new country. Unlike expat, immigrant can carry political and social weight. It's about belonging, contribution, and for some survival. If you move abroad, would you call yourself an immigrant or do you prefer a different term? Let me know again in the comments. Okay, repat. Repat is short for repatriate. This term describes someone who has returned to their home country after living abroad. But returning isn't always easy, and I've realized that there are many repats who say they feel like expats when they move back to their country. When I go back to India for vacation, the longest I've stayed is about 3 months. I've realized how things have changed and how I've changed too. Countries do evolve, develop, and when we live in another country, also change. And sometimes, your friends have moved on, maybe you've moved apart, they don't understand some of the experiences you've experienced. You're just a different person. So I can imagine how much harder it is for folks who have lived abroad, maybe in multiple countries, and then decide to move back to their country of origin. They suffer from reverse culture shock, where your home country feels foreign after time away. So what do you call yourself if you move back? Do you call yourself a repat? Then there's digital nomad. These are people who work remotely or while traveling or living abroad. It's less about settling and more about exploring the world. Then there's global citizen. This term reflects an identity that transcends borders. Now, these are even people who have never lived abroad. They consider themselves global citizens. They don't consider, maybe they have citizenship in a specific country, but maybe they want to see beyond borders, right? It's about feeling at home anywhere in the world and contributing to a global community. And in today's hybrid, remote world where the people working across countries, you're working with people across countries, maybe the company or the business you run has clients or supervisors or colleagues in other countries. You really in some ways are a global citizen. Then there's a foreigner. That was what we used to refer to as to people who weren't born in India. They were called foreigners. Terms like foreigner or resident are legal and practical. They are on your visa, your rental agreement, or your tax forms. Maybe they're not considered glamorous, but I don't see anything wrong with being a foreigner. Again, it's what people make it out to be. I think all these words are totally fine. It's just some of these words have so much more to the word than just the meaning of the word, and that's why some people are uncomfortable with certain words. Are there any other definitions that you call yourself? Let me know in the comments. If you like this video and you want to see more like these, please subscribe to my channel, like, comment, share, and I will see you soon in my next video. Thanks so much. Bye.